Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Tuesday. It's going up for the next 3 hours here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, on your mobile device, on the MSC Radio app, and on YouTube at 580 Sports Talk. However, wherever, whenever you're tuning into the program today, thank you so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. Delighted to be with you as always. Spencer Dupuis will be along in the 4 o'clock hour. We are with you until 6 o'clock. We'll pass the baton to the Royals Radio Network. First of a 6-game homestand for the boys in blue tonight as the Minnesota Twins come to town. It was this time last year, early August, that the Royals had been buyers at the trade deadline and the Twins had torn everything down. Well, the Twins didn't exactly go crazy at the deadline, but they made some additions, and the Royals didn't exactly tear it all down, but were certainly in a position of being sellers. That's how quickly things can turn in Major League Baseball and the American League Central in particular. And hold that thought, more on that a little bit later on in the program. But we will hand it off to Royals baseball. 6 o'clock tonight pregame, 6:40 the first pitch from the K. There'll be a pregame ceremony to honor Salvador Perez, having broken the club's career home run record beforehand. And then they'll go about the business of a ball game. It's Randy Dobnak back on the hill for the Royals, the former Uber driver, taking on Joe Ryan, whose status as a Royal killer might be up for grabs tonight. Royals have kind of taken it to him 3 of the last 4 times they've seen the Minnesota right-hander. So that's the pitching matchup again, 6:40 tonight. Bobby Witt Jr. back, activated today by the Royals, so there's that to be excited about as well. If not much else, there is that. 6:40, first pitch tonight, right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. In the 3 intervening hours, we're going to talk some Chiefs. A texter asked a question yesterday. The text line is always open, 785-272-9429. And we addressed it a little bit on yesterday's show, but it stuck with me enough that I was still thinking about it today. The idea of, do the Chiefs have too many holes, too many weaknesses to return to the level of being a Super Bowl contender? And to answer that question in full, I thought it would be a better idea to look and see, okay, where are these holes? How big are these holes? What are the Chiefs' plans, both short-term, right this second, and maybe long haul, for addressing those holes? And, well, can they be overcome over the course of the 2026 season? And I don't think this team has a ton of, glaring weaknesses. They do have one that we talk about all the time. The wide receiver room, on paper, not real good. It's a whole lot of hope. Whole lot of hope and not a lot of expectation when you're talking about this wide receiver group. But Is there anything else you would consider to be a gaping hole, like a worry, maybe a question, maybe a concern, but like a deep-seated worry on this roster? Now that Patrick Mahomes is out there moving around great on his knee, I don't know that there is. But we'll flesh that out a little bit. Talk about that, the latest from Chiefs training camp. They were back at it with the pads on again today. We'll get an injury update. We'll also have some Chiefs audio for you later on this hour. Joe Bleymaier spoke to the media today. He is the pass game coordinator for the Chiefs and the acting offensive coordinator while Eric Bieniemy is away from the team attending to his wife, who, of course, was injured in a shooting, allegedly at the hands of one of the couple's sons last week. So Joe Bleymaier has been the acting OC. We don't get to hear Joe talk much. So he made the most of his time at the podium, had some interesting things to say. And we'll hear from Joe Bleymaier, also from Kenneth Walker, the free agent running back who the Chiefs had at the podium today as well. And, of course, we'll continue our Chiefs conversation in the 5 o'clock hour with training camp report number 2 with Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs. He'll join us at 5:25 again today. Mitch is with us every day this month. Literally, every day in the month of August, we get to talk to Mitch a little bit later on. Another guest on today's show, Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, will join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for Jayhawk Weekly. KU football camp got underway today, so Swain got his first look at the 2026 Jayhawks for the fall. Heard from Lance Leipold. He spoke to the media today. We're getting close. We're 25 days away from week 0 of the college football season. There are meaningful college football games in 25 days. We are so close. So Michael Swain will join us for Jayhawk Weekly at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We've also got typical Tuesday shenanigans on the program. What is wrong with you? 5A Sports Talk headlines, a little bit of Random Question Tuesday as well. And we'll give away another pair of tickets to the big 94.5 Country Topeka PRCA Rodeo, presented by Sunbelt Rentals, August 21st and the 22nd. Got a 4-pack of tickets to give away to that event. If I said pair a second ago, I was lying. My mouth was lying to you. It's a 4-pack of tickets to the Topeka PRCA Rodeo, presented by Sunbelt Rentals. And I have a 4-pack to give away later on in the show, so be listening for your cue to call. As I mentioned, you are, as always, invited and encouraged to interact with 580 Sports Talk. The text line, 785-272-9429. That's 785-272-9429. Also, the live chat on YouTube is a fun place to hang out during the program and build the 580 Sports Talk community. Interact not just with your hosts, but with your fellow listeners. A hearty good afternoon to those in the chat today. Christopher first in with the helpful reminder of what day it is. If you've been listening for the last, since I've been a dad, so going on 2 years now, sometimes I flat forget what day it is. So sometimes I need the help. Thank you, Christopher, for the reminder today. Vance is in the chat. I see Mark H. in the chat. Sandra, great to see you. Welcome in to the chat today. Look forward to hearing from all of you and more as we go along. 580 Sports Talk, the name of the channel. If you're watching live, the live chat is open. All right. Chiefs are back at it today. And again, this was something that stuck with me a little bit from the text line. I want to re-rack it as far as the question that was asked. It was in the 3 o'clock hour yesterday, so maybe this is a listener who catches us early on in the program. And if you're listening again today, this is your question. I answered it in short form yesterday, but it stuck with me enough that I wanted to go long on it here to start this Tuesday show. And the question from the texter from the 785 was, the Chiefs are contenders, but does it not feel like we have some big gaps that will keep us from another Super Bowl appearance this year, or is that just me? So let's dig in on that. Big gaps, holes, problem areas on the 53-man roster. How would we define those for the Kansas City Chiefs? Well, it helps by starting by eliminating the things that we know to be strengths, right? The Chiefs are going to get pretty good quarterback play this year, I would say. They're pretty used to that. By this point, you could expect that the Chiefs will have the best quarterback in football under center, even if you don't think he's the best anymore, an argument I don't agree with for the record. You still concede that Mahomes remains elite, that health does not appear to be an issue now early in training camp. He might be overdoing it, and there may be some downstream consequences of that. But I think if that were a concern from the coaching staff, from the training camp staff, from Mahomes and Mahomes' camp, you'd see a bit of a backing off here and there. And we're just not seeing that. It's full steam ahead. So I think the Patrick Mahomes that we have seen is the Patrick Mahomes we can expect to a certain degree from week 1 all the way through to whenever the Chiefs are finished. Quarterback is a strength. I think running back is a strength. Kenneth Walker is really good. He's got the Super Bowl MVP from last year to prove it. And look, I know, just because you win a Super Bowl MVP doesn't mean you're an elite talent. There have been lots of guys who have had one great game when it really, really counted and have the honorific of Super Bowl MVP forever. Hello to Malcolm Smith as one great example. Timmy Smith, probably the ultimate example. Did he? No, he didn't win the MVP, did he? They gave it to Doug Williams, even though Timmy Smith ran for the Super Bowl record total yards for Washington when they beat the Broncos that one year. But Kenneth Walker was a Super Bowl MVP, and it didn't happen by accident. He had a good year. He was in a job share. He's going to have more responsibility in this Chiefs offense. He seems to be a really good fit for the offense, and the Chiefs have taken what was the worst running back room in football last year, and I think turned it into a strength. I feel good about the Chiefs' linebacking group. Depth is a concern, but I think their starting two of Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill are solid, reliable players who are in the right spot, make the tackles that you need them to make. That is a quality linebacker group. And the offensive line, broadly speaking, a strength. Right tackle, we had that question answered really quickly, didn't we? That's a competition. Khalil Benson can win that job. He can win it by week 1. He was out there with the ones again today, and by the accounts that I saw, including one from our Chiefs insider, Matt Derrick, he held his own against some of the best the Chiefs have to offer on the defensive line, like Chris Jones and R. Mason Thomas in some one-on-ones. So, yes, right tackle, that competition is real, but left tackle to right guard, the Chiefs have invested a lot and can feel as good as any team in the league. Maybe shy of an elite offensive line, but certainly I would call it a good one from left to right guard. So those are your strengths. The rest of the team falls into the weakness / question mark category. And obviously when you think about the biggest glaring weakness, or what feels like the biggest glaring weakness on this roster, you start with the wide receivers. But let me ask you 2 questions about the wide receiver group. Do you think this is a better group than last year? That's the first question. And this is kind of what we batted around talking about this yesterday when I first got the question. If Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and Tyquan Thornton are on the field healthy, and if Cyrus Allen is really as good as he's looked in the non-padded portions of practice. Haven't seen him in pads yet. He was back with the group today, but didn't practice, which was a good sign that he is maybe not needing to do a bunch of rehab-intensive stuff, and that he'll be close to rejoining practice after that scary shin bruise he suffered on Saturday. That group should be better than what was an injury-riddled group last season. That's what you're banking on. You're betting on health. If this group is healthier, I think they're better than last year. Even if it's the same guys. If the same guys are hurt, you can get them a little healthier. I think it's better. But that's a big if. Here's the other question. Is this wide receiver group better than the one that was sabotaging Patrick Mahomes week in and week out in 2023? It would be hard not to be, right? Like, that's about as bad as we've ever seen. And look, last year's wide receiver group, again, injury a big culprit, but it did not cover itself in glory. But in 2023, those guys were trying to lose football games. How many games, how many drives How many touchdowns did the Chiefs lose on drops? I think that was Mahomes' career high in interception that year. How many of them hit somebody in the hands before they got picked off? Could this wide receiver group be better than that group? Again, if healthy, I think the answer is yes. It's a really big if. But I think if the Chiefs roll Yahtzee with health for their top three guys, I think the answer could be yes. And anyway, that 2023 team won the Super Bowl. Which you can learn the wrong lesson from something like that, right? Like, you can take that too far. And that is the concern, that maybe the Chiefs did take that lesson the wrong way and decide, all right, even if we've got a couple of wide receivers on this roster who we at least once a week scratch our head and wonder aloud if they're shaving points. Even with those guys, Mahomes made it shake, and on a bum ankle, we won the Super Bowl, right? So that would be the wrong lesson to learn, would be to say, well, if we can be that bad at that position and Mahomes can still make it work and we can still win the championship, surely this group will be fine. It's a dangerous game you play. The other question marks, they're both on the defensive side of the ball. Like, the defensive line needs to be better than it was last year. And that question mark is entirely down to immediate impact from two top 40 picks, Peter Woods and R. Mason Thomas. A return to form from George Karlaftis, who spent half of last year playing with one hand. And Chris Jones still having some gas in the tank. Which every statistic except sacks suggests that he does. And obviously that's a pretty important one. And he does need to produce more for what he's being paid in that department. He needs to bring down the quarterback more often. But everything else, including the film, suggests he still demands your attention. He's still capable of winning one-on-ones, occasionally beating double teams, getting into the backfield in a hurry, and being disruptive in a way that few defensive tackles in the league can match. So that's the bet on the defensive line. Is that a better bet than the wide receiver group? I think it is. I think it is, because you're asking two highly touted, that's in the eye of the beholder. But I'm a big fan of Peter Woods and R. Mason Thomas, the top 40 picks. So you're talking about two top 40 picks, right? Those guys you expect to help you from day one. Those aren't projects. Those guys are supposed to help you. And the Chiefs are betting on them being able to help. Better health for Karlaftis, who got hurt on a freak thing. It's not like Karlaftis is coming back from an ACL or Karlaftis is coming back from a bunch of soft tissue injuries. Broke his thumb. Freak deal. Stuff happens. Don't break your thumb. And you can play with both hands instead of just one, and that should help Karlaftis be better and bounce back to some previous career benchmarks. So are the Chiefs making a reasonable bet about the question mark at defensive line? I think they are. It is a reasonable bet. Does that mean it's going to hit? If there were such a thing as sure things, those casinos in Vegas wouldn't be so tall and so shiny. But I think it's a reasonable bet. The secondary obviously went young. They're replacing 3 starters. They've got one vet in for another at safety with Alohi Gilman replacing Brian Cook. And they've got a top 10 pick and a second-year day 3 pick coming in for a former first-rounder and a former day 3 pick. This is a bet on internal player development. It is a bet that the Chiefs have made over and over again and have hit on a lot more often than they have busted. So again, would you say that's a reasonable bet for the Chiefs to make? That their secondary, while it's young and could take some lumps early accordingly, that this secondary can produce roughly at the level of last year's group. Is that a reasonable bet? I think that it is. Maybe not as reasonable, maybe not as secure as I feel about the bet on the defensive line, but reasonable to a degree all the same. So really you're left with wide receiver as the whole, right? And we have seen that hole patched by the brilliance, the singular brilliance of Patrick Mahomes before. So how do you feel about him doing it again? Coming off of an ACL, behind this iteration of the Chiefs offensive line, with Eric Bieniemy back on the sideline, all the external factors, better position coaching. We all believe Chad O'Shea is going to do a better job with that wide receiver group than I've already forgotten the name of the previous Brennan something. I've already forgotten the name of the previous wide receiver coach. I've already memory hold it. Connor Embry. With all of those external factors at play, do you think Mahomes can elevate a wide receiver group again? Particularly one where I don't think the floor is as low as the level of performance of the 2023 group. We didn't think the floor for the 2023 group was that low. And then Kadarius Toney was volleyball setting interceptions into the other team's hands once a week. So, yeah, obviously, this could be wrong. And this could be the riskiest bet. And it's hard to say you're going to hit on everything, right? It's hard to say everything is going to go exactly right. And that is why it feels a little less right now like, oh, yeah, fait accompli. The Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl unless somebody else rips it from them, which is how we felt going into the last 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 seasons, right? This is foreign. But it feels more like the Chiefs are one in a group of teams who probably feel about the same way, where they like what they're good at, and they're going to have to overcome some of the things that are weaknesses on their roster. Look at the other contenders in the AFC. Buffalo have holes. Yeah, they got quite a few of them. They've got a wide receiver group that, I mean, they brought in DJ Moore, who's like the epitome of wide receiver number 2, to be their wide receiver number 1. We'll see how that goes. Defensively, do they have enough pass rush? Do they have enough playmakers, period, on the defensive side of the ball? Is Joe Brady a good coach? We don't have any idea if he's going to be a good coach. We know they fired a good coach, a perfectly good coach. That's a concern. Denver, what's their weakness? It's Bo Nix. Really, like, it is. That is their primary weakness. But also the linebacking group, not real strong. Questions about the durability in the backfield. Like, that's a really good team. That's probably the team with the roster where you feel like the holes are maybe not the biggest to fill. But Bo Nix going to go win you a game. I don't know that he won that game against Buffalo as much as Josh Allen blew it with the 4 turnovers. Maybe that's not fair. We didn't get to see Nix in the AFC Championship game. Maybe we're all being unfair to Bo Nix. But also, I've seen his movies. The Chargers, what's their weakness? Quarterback can't win big games. That's a pretty big one to have to overcome. What's Baltimore's weakness? Old. They're old. They just give Zay Flowers elite wide receiver money. Another guy who's wide receiver number 2. They gave him elite money today. 108 guaranteed. 108 million. Holy smokes. For Zay Flowers? So everybody's got weaknesses. The Chiefs have just been able to paper over the biggest of their weaknesses with having Patrick Mahomes. And they're betting on being able to do it again to a certain extent. Are you willing to make that bet? 15's a pretty good guy to throw your money behind. Has been in his career. But that's the bet. Your reaction, 785-272-9429 on the text line. You can also get at me in the live chat on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. Got some nuggets from camp to discuss when we come back from this break. We're also going to hear from St. Joe today as Joe Bleymaier and Kenneth Walker took to the podium. That's coming up after this timeout. But before we get to our first break, I want to tell you about my friends at Calhoun's Jewelers here in the capital city. When you're buying jewelry for whomever, for whatever the occasion might be, it could be a daunting task, right? Daunting process. You want to make sure you get it right. You want to make sure it's perfect. You want to make sure it meets your eye, fits your eye, meets your price range, all of those things. It can be a bit intimidating. That's why the friendly folks at Calhoun's Jewelers help make that process go so much smoother. They treat you like the MVP when you walk in the door. They really do. They make you feel comfortable in your decision. They help you find exactly what you're looking for. And if they can't help you find it on the showroom floor, they can help you design it. Calhoun's Jewelers, 18th and Gage in Topeka. Back after this with more 580 Sports Talk. .333 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero with you. Great to be with you on this Tuesday. Got a great show for you. Michael Swain for Jayhawk Weekly, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour on the first day of KU football camp, fall camp. Also, Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, will join us again today at 5:25. Again, it is the summer of Mitch. Every day in the month of August, Mitch Holthus joins us for a training camp report at 5:25. Some thoughts on that opening segment. We'll go to the text line first from the 785. I'll always bet the Chiefs to win with 15 at quarterback. That's kind of it. Like, at the end of the day, the hope is that whatever foibles that the Chiefs have, Mahomes can cover for them. And that has worked. We saw last year what happens when it doesn't work, when there were too many foibles, right? When the defensive line got old and lost juice, when the defensive backfield didn't make enough plays, when special teams wasn't good enough, when the offensive line dealt with an unbelievable number of injuries, when the wide receiver group wasn't good enough and dinged up, when the running back room sucked. That was a lot of holes, right? That was a team with too many holes for even Mahomes to fill. This year's team, I feel like, has fewer of them, or could have fewer of them. From Paul in the live chat on YouTube, he expresses his faith in the wide receiver room. I trust the room. I get why you might not, but I think coaching and offensive scheme will put guys in their best, most effective roles. Also points out that having an actual running back threat will prevent teams from putting 4 in the box and dropping 7 into coverage and double teaming guys that can't beat man coverage. It was the Buffalo game when that really started last year. I think that was the moment when the league decided, look, we're not even going to take the running threat of the Chiefs seriously. We're done. If they want to run it, great. We know they won't. We know they can't. But you be our guest. We're dropping 7, maybe even 8. We're putting a bunch of defensive backs on the field, and we're going to outman your wide receiver group. Do something about it. And the Chiefs never really could figure it out. They never found offensive rhythm after that, and then guys got hurt, and then Mahomes got hurt, and that was that. But I do think there are going to be some positive downstream effects of a running game worth respecting. If they're really in on committing to it, which with Andy Reid is always a question, right? How many times have you said it? Maybe red-faced, maybe grabbing a can of beverage so tightly that you put a dent in the side. How many times have you grumbled it under your breath over the course of the time he's been the head coach? Run the ball, Andy. I know Eagles fans have stories. They certainly did that plenty. But I do think that the running threat is going to be significant enough that there are going to be some positive downstream effects. And it could help raise the ceiling of this wide receiver group. But they got to stay healthy. Like, that's the biggest thing. And that's the biggest concern, frankly, for me, is that, like, if those guys stay healthy, I think it's probably, like, it's not good, but it's probably fine. Like, you want an example of a fine wide receiver group? 2022 Chiefs. That wide receiver group was fine. And that was good enough. I think this wide receiver group can be fine. I'm not sure that their realistic ceiling is much beyond that, but I think they can be fine if those guys are healthy. Got to stay healthy. Good stuff. Appreciate those commenting both on the live chat and in the text line. Again, 785-272-9429. Let's take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll hear from Chiefs pass game coordinator Joe Bleymaier and Chiefs running back Kenneth Walker, both of whom spoke today in St. Joe. We'll get mic'd up from Chiefs camp. Coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Day 2 of padded practice at Chiefs training camp. Bring us some of the post-practice audio here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll begin with Joe Bleymaier. He is the pass game coordinator for the Chiefs, but right now is standing in for Eric Bieniemy as the acting offensive coordinator while Bieniemy attends to his injured wife. Here's Joe Bleymaier from earlier today.
Joe, what's the process been like for you since EB's been gone and the extra duties that we picked up?
Yeah, we've just stepped up. We miss EB, obviously. But in the meantime, everybody, Coach Heck has taken on more roles with the run game and the offensive line. All the position coaches have stepped up. There's just a little bit more administrative stuff to handle, but we've been doing this a long time. We all kind of know what's expected, and we've just been rolling from there.
Have you had a chance to talk to EB about life and football and everything?
Yeah, he keeps in touch. It was great to hear from him just because, just on a personal standpoint, you were just so devastated for him, and so gave him some time. And he's been reaching out more and more lately with some of the football stuff. So that's kind of brought a little bit of sense of normalcy back to our routine, just hearing him and his thoughts on the football.
The other one on that kind of coaching side, players all the time, when they're not in, they're taking mental reps. Are you like a mental rep for OC guy, or when you just focused on when you were doing your other job? What's that like when
I wish I could say that I was preparing like that. Usually there was just so much going on in each of my past individual roles that it was all I could do to stay afloat with that. In the meantime, stepping up here, I know what's expected and how we operate. The great thing with Coach Reed leading the show on offense and the assistant coaches we have, especially even with our veteran players, we miss EB, but we don't have a leadership void. Everybody kind of understands what the standard is. And as far as the offensive coordinator calling in the plays and just making sure some of the administrative stuff is handled, that's been the biggest thing. Other than that, everybody has just kind of continued on the standard that EB set.
We're a week in here with Patrick out here doing all the things he's supposed to be doing. What have you seen from him? Anything surprise you?
You hate anything that Patrick does to say it surprises you, because he's always pushing the limits of physically what he can do with the football and just the recovery timetable from the injuries that he's had. But still, I haven't seen anything with the knee out there on the field that would lend itself to show any sort of hangover or any sort of setbacks from the season. So that, I hate to say I'm surprised by that, but it's just non-existent, any sort of knee issues, which has been incredible.
What do you see from, I know Cyrus isn't out here right now, it's been a few days, but what do you see from him in the early on?
Yeah, early on, he grasped the playbook and what we were asking him to do. So that was the first part, the mental. And he has a natural feel for kind of space out there after the snap. So sometimes with young guys, when they're learning the offense, where to line up, all the details of just getting out of the huddle, some of that, once the ball is snapped, natural ability gets shoved down a little bit. You can still see he was playing with that natural ability. So he's got great physical traits. They were showing up after the snap. His mental stuff was good pre-snap, so you can build on that, and that's exciting.
Kenneth Walker, what do you see from him since you guys got him?
He's going to be tough to tackle. He brings another element to the offense. I think it's clear some of our screens so far this camp, a lot of our runs, and then the play actions after that, all that kind of ties in together. So him with the O-line and then how that opens up the rest of the field. It's a credit to him. He's been tremendous.
You guys are working on the short yardage today. From what you can share, maybe how will it be different in a good way this year?
Yeah, we did short yardage and goal line full pads, so we were able to and do it live with some tackling period. I don't know if it would be different. We're trying to emphasize the strengths of the guys that we have. So we have some new personnel, so we'll emphasize their strengths, and just with the guys that we have returning, continue on with what we built and try to throw a curveball to the defense.
And then I'm just curious what you've seen from Fields and then Garrett behind Patrick.
Yeah, I've been impressed mentally with those guys and their command of the offense as well. You can tell Justin's a veteran in the league. Everything comes natural to him in terms of calling the play and running the huddle, and then out there physically, he's very gifted. So I've been impressed with Justin, and then Nuss as a rookie, continuing to learn and grow. He's soaking in everything the vets are telling him, and he's playing fast. And so with all the information that he's getting, similar to what we talked about with Cyrus, just all the overload, if once the ball is snapped, they can just continue to play the game they've always played and play fast, that's something you can build on.
We're going to go last four. We'll start with Bombay and work across.
Joe, what do you feel like you're trying to most establish this camp offensively? And I wonder if there's maybe a little wrinkle in the identity that you anticipate?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing this camp, and this is one of the reasons we miss EB, but he did a great job of the spring of just establishing the standard of what's acceptable and what we're going to stand for and how we're going to operate as a unit. So less so maybe schematically or philosophically what we're going to do on the field. It's been a mindset and a standard, and just bringing everybody together and holding them to that standard what I'd say is the biggest focus.
And for you personally, in the role you're in now, do you feel like you have some call to demand that more yourself too? I mean, how's that playing out for you?
Yeah, definitely a different style than EB. Yeah. Although I lost my voice here already, so some of him is worn off on me. But yeah, everyone has a different style. I think the guys want to be held accountable, and they want someone to just constantly remind them, not let anything slide, and just say, here's what we're going to do. And when you have 100 plays, the tendency can be to point out the stuff that's egregious, and then to let the little stuff slide play after play, so that it doesn't appear for 100 plays you're just constantly nitpicking. But that's the role of the coordinator. That's the role of whoever's in that position, is to just continually uphold the standard. And so that's what we've been able to do as a staff, each of the position coaches, and then with EB gone, I've been trying to do that. I thought about having everything run smoothly while he was gone, and how he would take that. And the funny thing was, he would not want anything to be smooth here. He would want this to be a challenging camp, the coaches to be challenging the guys, and for us to be getting better. And so that little voice in the back of your head, as you guys can imagine from EB out here, has been good motivation.
And then year 14 with Travis, maybe what have you seen out of him at this camp, and how's he looking from a coach's eye?
Yeah, young Trav has embraced the standard. You know, he's kind of helped built it. He's established the standard throughout his years here, and then he's seen just various iterations of the team, and his leadership into just even admitting when he's fallen short of the standard and saying he can be better, and then bringing guys along has been awesome to see. It's veteran Trav. He knows what's expected, and he's embraced that role to bring everybody up with him.
Last two, maintenance stand.
Joe, you guys have had Patrick under center and then rolling to the left and the right quite a bit. How much of this camp is about gaining trust with him and his movements, if you guys were able to show that early on in the season?
Yeah, I think that's a good observation, and I would rephrase it a little bit, as in, we're not going to put any limitations on what Patrick can do. So rather than maybe emphasizing what we're going to try to do more, we're really trying to eliminate holding him back, or saying let's not put him in this certain situation where everything's open, from under center to rolling left to going right, the whole playbook, and really just trying to emphasize that this is normal and this is what we do. We're out there. He's got no limitations. So, but that is true.
Does your heart do a little something when he starts to be creative with his legs on the outside?
Yeah, I mean, you can say, but that's him. He plays the game. I mean, as you guys know, he plays the game with his style, and you never want to take that away from him. So, but yes, that to your point.
Last one, Sam.
Joe, how much of an emphasis when you looked at the offseason was trying to get the running backs more involved in the passing game and recognizing that maybe the personnel shift might have been?
Yeah, you look at specifically our running backs and their skill sets, and they're tough to tackle in space. And so handing them the ball off or tossing them the ball is one way to get them out in space, and then throwing them the ball is a similar way. So it falls into the category of just trying to utilize the guys that we have on the roster to the best of their abilities, and knowing that sometimes if everything is covered down the field and we got a running back one-on-one in space, that's going to be a great matchup for us. So yeah, it falls into that category of, we have these guys' a skill set, let's utilize them, and one of the ways to do that is by throwing them the ball more.
Joe Bleymaier, passing game coordinator for the Chiefs, acting offensive coordinator. Interesting insights on what that role means and what he's trying to embody while in the role. And that parting shot there about getting the running backs involved in the passing game. The return of the screen game would certainly be a welcome sight for the Chiefs this year. And one of the reasons there's optimism that can come back to the offense is because the new running back's really, really good on those kinds of plays. And speaking of the new running back, Kenneth Walker also spoke to the media today in St. Joe.
How'd it feel to be out there with pads on, going through more traditional football practice?
It felt great, you know. We've been out here with no pads, and you don't know if it's a tackle or not. But it's good to have pads on finally. You get the thud and, you know, get that football feel back.
Kenneth, last year you faced off against Congress Stronger in the Super Bowl. I'm curious if you guys have had any friendly banter about that game since then, and just what's it like being on the same team this year?
Yeah, it's great being on the same team as him. You know, he's got a great personality. I was just talking to him just then, but yeah, when we finally met and we was talking about like the Super Bowl and the plays and everything and each team, but yeah, it's great to have him on the team, and I'm ready to be able to ball on this side.
Is he glad he doesn't have to try and tackle you now?
Yeah, I mean, he got to try and practice. But he's been doing a great job.
Hey Ken, when we got Emmett here, when we asked him about you, he said you're someone who cares about the group.
Yeah.
What do you think he meant by that? What example would you give to say that?
Honestly, just bringing guys with me. I've been here longer than them in the league, so I don't want them to make the same mistakes that I made when I was just getting to the league, if that makes sense. So I want them to learn quicker than I learned, and I don't want it to be a drop-off at all. So, making sure those guys are good, which is they've been doing great. Everybody in the room has been doing great, and I just want to make sure we all on the same accord.
Do you have an example of not making the same mistakes or advice you can give?
Yeah, I would say, definitely. Like, even off the field, just diet and, obviously he probably got a great diet, but diet and routine, all types of stuff that I didn't do early on in my career, I want them to do it before, I feel like the earlier they do it, the better they'll be, leading up to, year 4 and year 5 and stuff like that.
Kenneth, a couple times at camp we've seen you're comfortable turning the field around. I guess what gives you the confidence that you're able to do that and not lose yardage in the game?
Yeah, that's just how I've been playing since I was a kid, just learning from my pops and, watching backs in the league. Honestly, just learning from my pops, though. If he says too many people over here, go the other way, and I feel like it still works to this day. I don't want to run into a crowd if I can go somewhere in open field, so.
That takes tremendous vision. I guess, at what point of your career did you realize, okay, I'm comfortable enough to do so?
Yeah, like I said, growing up, I've been doing it since I was younger, so, just getting better at it as I go, high school, college, and then to the pros.
Kenneth, you guys did some short yardage stuff today. Obviously, Zach had a lot of that in Seattle last year. What's your eagerness to be involved in it?
Yeah, honestly, like I always say, any way I can make a positive impact on the team, I'm going to do it. So, short yardage, passing, blocking, anything, I want to go out there and do it.
A couple more, we'll start with Blair.
Okay, what have you enjoyed about Coach Bieniemy's coaching, and when he returns, will continue for you?
Yeah, first off, prayers to his family, just take his time, and when he gets back, until then we'll hold it down, and when he gets back, we ready to have that intensity and that energy. That's what I love most about him, and how detailed he was with everything, like passing, blocking, running. You can't take a play off because he's going to say something to you about it. So, you just got to be on point with Coach EB.
Go Nate, and then Todd closes out.
Ken, I'm sure you're learning about Khalil Benson just like we are. Is there anything that has stood out to you about how he's done so well this far into camp as an undrafted rookie?
Yeah, definitely. He's done great. We got pads on now, and you get to see how well he's doing out there, and he's going to have a great impact on his team. And just like our other O-line, they've been doing great as well. So it's been great to be able to run behind those guys and actually like ask them questions about pass pro and everything else. They really helpful in that aspect as well.
Last one, Sean.
A couple quick things. Has EB been texting you, calling you since he's been away?
Oh, no, we got to talk to him on Zoom. He's been in some of the meetings, and, anything, he's still watching. So he'll be watching, anything we mess up on, he'll critique it and everything and make sure we still on point with everything. But, I sent him a text out, and, we still in contact.
Damian Williams, former Chief, has been here. What have you learned from him? What's he been like to be around?
It's been cool because he went through everything. He went through the camps, the seasons. He was in the Super Bowl. So it's been cool to have him around and, tell him what I see and how he sees things as well. So I'm glad we got him here.
That was Kenneth Walker speaking at Chiefs camp earlier today. Some thoughts on the newly acquired defensive tackle, Khyiris Tonga, who also spoke to the media today. We don't have time to play Khyiris Tonga's audio, but another addition is kind of under the radar. I didn't even mention him at the top of the show. We were talking about the Chiefs making over the defensive line, looking for a better, younger, more impactful group up front to go with the stalwarts, Jones and Karlaftis. And Khyiris Tonga is going to be a big part of that. Should be a significant upgrade over the Mike Pennell and Derek Nottie snaps from last year. We'll take a break, come back, wrap up this opening hour of 580 Sports Talk after this. .356 on 580 Sports Talk. We have some breaking Royals news. Matt Quatrero speaking with reporters just minutes ago in the Royals dugout ahead of tonight's game. And it is not news that anyone wants to hear, but it was news that we could kind of see coming. It will be Tommy John surgery for both Stephen Kolek and Luinder Avila. They will both require Tommy John surgery. That will cost them, obviously, the rest of 2026. And given the timing of it, huge chunk of the 2027 season as well. So they are the fourth and fifth starting pitchers in the Royals system to require Tommy John this season, joining Ryan Bergert, Ben Caderna, and Cole Reagans. Does not include the labrum surgery that Alec Marsh had in the spring. I said it earlier this week, right? So yesterday, I said it some last week. At some point, you got to look at what you're doing, because 5 Tommy Johns in 1 year kind of gets past the point of coincidence, even awful coincidence. And I think the Royals really got to do some inward searching as to the health of their players and the health of their pitchers, because this year has been a catastrophe on that front. We got some Royals talk in the 4 o'clock hour, the path to winning in 2027, which just got harder with that news. We'll also be joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly and have What Is Wrong With You. But right now, I'm looking for caller number 3 to 785-272-9429. I've got 4 tickets to the Big 94.5 Country Topeka PRCA Rodeo, presented by Sunbelt Rentals, August 21st and 22nd. 785-272-9429. Caller 3 wins the tickets on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Second hour of this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Thanks so much for being with us. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you until 6 o'clock tonight on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, on your mobile device on the MSC radio app, and on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. We are with you, as I mentioned, until 6 o'clock. We have Royals baseball, 6 o'clock pregame, 6:40 first pitch from Kauffman Stadium. If you're headed to the game tonight, well, public service announcement for anybody headed out to the K. If you're within the sound of my voice, it might be any minute you're planning on making tracks out to the Truman Sports Complex. 6:15 is when they want you to be in the seats for the pregame ceremony honoring Salvador Perez for his 318 career homers, which is, of course, a Royals franchise career record. 6:15 for the ceremony, 6:40 for the first pitch tonight. I think the first 13,000 fans, 13 for Salvy's number, get a poster. I think it is something to commemorate the feat. So a lot of reasons to get to the ballpark. 13,000 reasons to get to the ballpark tonight and honor Salvy. And then he'll go about the business of trying to win a baseball game, which the Royals haven't done in a little bit. They're losers of 4 straight as they open this homestand tonight against the Twins. Salvy's hitting cleanup and DHing tonight. 6:40 first pitch. Hear it right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Still to come on 580 Sports Talk today. Bottom of this hour, Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, will join us for Jayhawk Weekly. Get his impressions from day one of KU camp. KU football camp opened up today. And we'll get Michael's thoughts. He was there. He got to eyewitness a good portion of the first open practice today. Michael Swain, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. 5:25 today, Mitch Holthus, voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, for training camp report number 2. Mitch's training camp reports, of course, brought to us by Azure Credit Union and Hy-Vee. He'll join us 5:25 sharp. And we'll talk Travis Kelce today, who had an eventful offseason, and not in that sarcastic way that you would say, like, Rashee Rice had an eventful offseason.
Yeah, I'd say no.
No, in the very happy, like, he got married. He got married to the love of his life. And it just so happens that she's more famous than he is. You know, that's not usually the case for an NFL player.
We do have to see if Mitch...
I'll ask. We'll ask if Mitch went, for sure. If he went, if he made it out. I am looking forward to talking about Travis and what they're seeing from. Of course, in training camp, it's not Travis. It's not Travis Kelce. You know that. It's not Travis Kelce at training camp. It's El Travador.
El Travador
with the facial hair
yes.
and everything. So we'll find out how El Travador is progressing at yet another training camp as he continues his future Hall of Fame career. That's coming up at 5:25. Still got Random Question Tuesday. We got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. It's officially watch list and coaches poll season. Plenty of college football coming in the Sports Talk headlines today. And your thoughts on the show. Want to hear from you. 785-272-9429 is the number to text. That's 785-272-9429. Can also interact in the live chat on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. We did have a winner for those rodeo tickets. I got 4 more 4-packs to give away, or 3 more 4-packs. We're giving away one every day this week. So we got another giveaway Wednesday, another on Thursday, another on Friday. So if you didn't win today, keep listening. We have 3 more 4-packs. Stop saying 4, Dan. That's a lie. It was 4. Now it's 3 because you gave one away today. You idiot. 3 more 4-packs to give away.
You had the
on
4
580
in there.
Sports
You
Talk.
just put 4 twice. It happens to
It
the
does.
best of us.
Yeah, well, it's not nearly as bad as me saying we were live on a Sunday yesterday. So, the gaffe of the day. Should get that sponsored. The Dan Lucero verbal gaffe of the day.
It's okay, Dan. You did say something yesterday, and as of 20 minutes ago at 3:51 p.m., those 2 people, in fact, will get what you said would probably happen. Even though you said, I don't want to get ahead of it.
I didn't want to put that on either Stephen Kolek or Lewinder Avila, but you could kind of see it coming. And we mentioned it at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. But yes, in case you missed me doing that, Stephen Kolek and Lewinder Avila will both need Tommy John surgery. The good news for the Royals is that's 5 Tommy John surgeries this year on their 40-man roster. It was Ryan Bergert and Ben Caderna in April. Cole Reagan's in June or early July. I forget the time frame on that surgery. And now here's Stephen Kolek and Lewinder Avila in August. So that's 5, which means their next one is on the house.
Yeah, I was going to say, did they get a discount for these?
Buy 5, get 1 free. Or it's like you get a small Frogurt. Your next one comes with a free Frogurt.
Oh, gosh, man.
So, I did want to start this hour talking about the Royals because the Royals have made it very clear. They think this season is a blip. They think that this is a bump in the road, a worst-case scenario outcome season. They're 46-67. Again, the only teams with worse records in baseball, fewer wins entering today's action, the A's, the Angels, and the Rockies. So it is the 4th worst team in baseball, if you want to frame it that way. And the belief of JJ Piccollo and this front office is not that this is an irreversible downward spiral, but this is a worst-case scenario season and that there is a path to contending in the American League Central in 2027.
With 2 random dudes pitching in the rotation?
We'll get there. I wanted to get to the actual quote from JJ Piccollo because Sam McDowell talked to him yesterday, and JJ had a press conference because Royals were not real busy yesterday. They traded Chris Bubich to the Dodgers, but that was the only move they made yesterday. They traded Lane Thomas and Bailey Falter before that.
Did you know the Royals also had some, gala last night?
I did not.
That would be the worst night to have a gala.
Well, if you were invited and then you got traded, yeah.
Yeah. But then it's like I'm going to hang out with my buddies and then not.
So JJ Piccollo had a press conference, and Sam McDowell asked him basically straight up, why do you think this team can contend next year? And this was Piccolo's answer, quote, well, the same belief we had this year. We know who our catchers are. We know who our first baseman is. I think Massey and Lofton have done a great job at second base. We know who our shortstop is, who our third baseman is. Isaac Collins has come around. Jack Caglione is playing well. Kyle Isbell plays good defense and understands his role as an offensive player. So when you go around the field, we're not a rebuilding team. And then when you look at what Waka and Lugo have given us and Noah Cameron, that's the end of the quote that I'll give you here because that's where the transcription from RoyalsReview.com cuts it off. So JJ Piccollo likes the position player group, likes 3 guys he knows are going to start games next year. So let's start. We know who our catchers are. That, to me, tells us that barring something dramatic, Salvador Perez is going to be a Royal next year. Carter Jensen, Salvador Perez. You say you know who your first baseman is. Presumably that's Vinny Pasquantino. Massey and Lofton, that's something of a platoon at second base, I guess. You have Witt and Garcia, no issues there. Isaac Collins has come around. He has. He's been above average with the bat on the season. 341 on base percentage. He's kind of been the hitter I think they thought Jonathan India was going to be for them. And that and his defense in left field, he's going to be about a 2-win player this year. That's nothing wrong with that. And they got him plus for Angel Zerpa, who, by the way, also blew out his arm this year. So if you want to count him as the 6th Royals Tommy John surgery of 2026,
yes,
maybe you could. Isbell, Caglione. Okay, so that's 10 guys. That's 10 position players, 3 starting pitchers. That, JJ Piccollo, is 13 out of a 26-man roster. What are we doing about the other 13? Man, what are we doing about the other 13? Because, I don't necessarily think. The conclusion that article at RoyalsReview.com, by the way, it was Jeremy Greco who wrote it today, and the headline is provocative. The trade deadline shows the Royals are in denial about their roster, and his closing thought is, quote, there is no apparent realistic path to the Royals competing in 2027. I don't know that I agree with that 100%. The Royals think they can win in 2027 because they have a core of players who won in 2024, had a winning record in 2025. 82-80 is nothing to throw a parade about, but it was a winning season. So back-to-back winning seasons with this core group. They have a perennial MVP at Canada at shortstop. He can carry a team. You've got 2 young bats on the rise. Like Caglione and Jensen are both good right now and also not as good as maybe they're going to be. I think those guys are on an upward trajectory. I think you can be really pleased with how they've developed this year. You've also got 2 guys who have established themselves as above-average big league hitters in Pasquantino and Garcia, who were injury interrupted this year. And Pasquantino got off to a miserable start, but I don't think we're going to get to see him have a chance to bounce back with a second half that's more in line with his career marks because of the injury that he's dealing with. I don't think we'll see a fully healthy Vinny Pasquantino until the start of 2027. And the biggest thing that the Royals are dealing with in the American League Central is a division with no juggernauts, where 85 or 86 wins can buy you a ticket to the playoffs. So the bar the Royals are trying to reach, in the end, is not an astronomically high one. And that works in their favor, as it works in the favor of anybody in the American League Central. I mentioned it at the top of the show, talking about this upcoming series. Last year, the Twins tore the whole world down and traded 11 of their guys. And this year, they're 56-57 with a roster nobody expected anything of, and objectively not good, right? But close enough in the Central to be a team that added at the trade deadline. That's how quick it can flip in the American League Central. The White Sox were the dregs last year. They got some young guys firing on offense, 1 or 2 decent starting pitchers, and they lead the division now, right? It can turn on a dime in this division in a way that it cannot anywhere else. So that is the case for winning Royals baseball in 2027. The case against is equally easy to make, because even with a core of 10 offensive players or starting everyday players that JJ Piccollo feels good about, this is still a team with a collective OPS of 711, which is only just above league average according to OPS Plus. And one of the guys who helped them get over positive OPS as with his performance, Lane Thomas, is no longer a Royal. So is this lineup as a whole good enough? Because average is only good enough if you compare it with outstanding defense and outstanding pitching. And about that pitching, Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, Noah Cameron, starter number 4 next year. Guess what? It's you. You,
Randy Dobnak.
Hearing this.
Randy Dobnak.
The Uber driver, Randy Dobnak.
It's got to be, right? Like, that's who it is.
So maybe Ryan Bergert or Alec Marsh or Ben Caderna, who's never pitched in the major leagues, have recovered sufficiently from major surgery to compete for a job in spring training in March, in April of next year. But those are 2 vacancies in a rotation that doesn't really have anybody who's a frontline guy. It's not like you're starting with, all right, we've got an aircraft carrier at the top of this rotation. We got a 30-start stud who's going to get Cy Young consideration, and every 5 days is win day when that guy is on the mound, and then we got to build it from that. No, you've got a fine number 3 starter in Michael Wacha, who will be 35 next year. You've got a number 4 in Lugo, who turns 37 next year. You got a number 4, number 5 in Noah Cameron, and you got a bunch of organizational number 4s and number 5s at best, all of whom at this point are recovering from some sort of significant arm surgery.
You forgot about newly acquired Lucas Braun.
Yeah, I guess I did forget about him. Again, has never pitched in the major leagues, 4 or 5 starter ceiling.
Yes.
He, at this point, you probably write him in
That's
for
what
next
I'm
year.
saying.
You probably do. A guy who, as of August 4th, has never pitched in the major leagues. You are saying, I believe that is going to be a piece of a playoff caliber, a contention caliber rotation in 2027. You see where that's a problem?
Yeah.
Do you also know that it's not just 5 starting pitchers you need, it's 8 relievers? How many of these guys you want back next year? Daniel Lynch, I want back and will have back. 2 different questions, right? Like the Royals, Lucas Erceg's under team control. They got to get him right. Matt Strahm, won't see him no more. As of today, he was DFA'd. Matt Strahm has pitched his last. That is the end of the Sonic Strahm inning. The Sonic Strahm inning that saw Strahm give up 12 home runs in 35 2/3 innings this year, and even 3 per 9 is no longer with the club. Steven Cruz, he's a little home run prone, but Cruz will be around next year.
He might be your best bet in the bullpen, right?
Nate Pearson's made a good start to life as a Royal, but it's only 3 innings. A whole bunch of organizational guys. They're picking up everybody's waiver detritus at this point just to try and make something stick. That's where the Royals are at this stage, trying to construct a pitching staff that can get them through the rest of 2026. Never mind that can win at 2027. And then, okay, you've got 10 position players you like. We have seen that the organizational depth is just about nil this year. You saw the lineups they were running out there. Go look at who they're running out AAA every day. It's not a bunch of prospects.
Brandon Drury.
It's the Brandon Drurys and Cameron Meisners. I know he's not with the organization anymore. Abe Toro, Kevin Newman, like classic quadruple A guys.
Drew Waters.
Yes, Drew Waters is the platonic example of a quad A guy that the Royals are running out there instead of exciting young players who are going to be the next thing. You have no organizational depth, and you have a massive pitching vacuum. That is what the Royals have to overcome if they're really going to win in 2027. Now, can you? Can you spend your way out of a little bit of that trouble? If you're willing to. Another starting pitcher in the Waka-Lugo price range would at least give them a little stability. Because if you go into next year with Waka, Lugo, Cameron, and let's say a Kevin Gausman or a Robbie Ray, and like those guys don't light you on fire, but those are middle rotation starting caliber pitchers at this stage in their careers. You have a little bit more stability. You're counting a little less. Every notch on the depth chart you can push down the injury guys, the better off that you are. And you don't typically have to spend a ton of money to rework a bullpen. But this is the thing that the Royals have to prove that they're going to do. And you can pardon me and pardon all of you for being skeptical about this. If you're going to go for it, you have to go for it. There is no sense at this point for the Royals to do any prospect hugging. If there's a trade they can make for a starting pitcher or a bullpen arm, I wouldn't say that anybody not named Kendry Churio should be untouchable. If the Royals want to cash in what meager prospect capital that they have at this point in their development to try and really win with Bobby Witt Jr. on the roster and Jack Caglione cheap and Carter Jensen cheap and Michael Garcia on the roster, everybody not named Churio should be for sale.
Gavin Cross?
Yes! Oh, Gavin Cross is not a real prospect. Nobody is taking him seriously as a prospect anymore. It's over for Gavin Cross. I'm talking about Blake Mitchell. I'm talking about Carson Rocafort. I'm talking about the catcher Ramirez. I'm talking about any of the other arms, Shields, Lampkin, Lombardi, any of those guys. Anybody. Only Churio to me would be untouchable. And even he's a 19-year-old pitching prospect. So for the right deal, I think about it. If you're going to try to win, try to win. Don't make excuses about, well, it's just we couldn't spend enough. And then you come out of the offseason having spent $5.5 million on free agents. No, that's not going to be good enough. So that's why I say I don't think there's no realistic path, but the realistic path involves real significant financial investment in the pitching staff. And historically, the level of aggressiveness that it's going to require for the Royals to get to the point where they've got a roster good enough to contend has not exactly been a hallmark of the Kansas City Royals organization. So this front office has to overcome a lot of well-earned skepticism as we sit here today on August 4th. But the door isn't closed. They can be aggressive. There is money in the banana stand. They could cash in prospect capital, guys who are probably not going to be a part of a contending team during these years before the opt-out in Bobby Witt Jr.'s contract. Go cash those guys in for a starting pitcher with some team control, or a corner outfield bat with some team control, or a center fielder who can hit, for God's sake. I know our guy Fulton Castor, big Kyle Isbell guy, and you can afford to carry one weak link in your offense if he's a good enough defender. And Isbell really close to that line where it's still worth it to carry him. But man, what about a center fielder who could hit even a little bit? So that's the path. I don't think it's unrealistic. I just think the Royals have a lot of proving it to do when it comes to, are they going to be willing to actually go and do it?
And you talk about like prospects. If you go to MLB.com and look up the top prospects for the Royals, the top four prospects, 20 ETA, 2029, 2029, 2029, 2031. Those are just, at this point, projections, right? Like, oh, we're projecting them to be a top Royals prospect because the guys currently in the system above them aren't very good. So when those are your guys, your top four prospects are guys that are 18, 19, 19, 17, that's not good. Not good at all.
Andrew in the YouTube live chat asks, which section of players do you have the most faith in for 2027? It's absolutely the position guys. The position group core is good enough to win. Like, there are a lot of teams who would like to start with 5 guys the caliber of Bobby Witt Jr. in particular, but Caglione and Jensen, both in their early 20s, Garcia entering his prime, Pasquantino, and what he has been a well above average offensive player every year of his career before this year. So that's a pretty good place to start offensively. And this has been this year a better offensive team than the teams the last couple of years. They had winning records, and the one in 2024 that went to the playoffs. It's a better offensive team.
Michael Massey's doing a lot better than I think a lot of people anticipate.
Yeah, right around league average. Still doesn't get on base, doesn't ever walk, but there's pop there. There's a useful player at second base. If he's your 8th best player, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You can live with that. But long way to go, obviously, to build the pitching back up. We're going to talk to Michael Swain of Fog.net coming up here in about 10 minutes for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll get his thoughts on the first day of KU football camp. Also got What Is Wrong With You coming up. But real quick, a word for my friends at Eagle Auto Wash and Detailing Salon here in the capital city. They are locally owned with prices that are as low as half as much as their competitors' prices. And the unlimited wash plans allow you to get your car washed as many times as you want. Those start as low as $19 a month and as low as $9 a month for your first month to get you started, so you can realize the Eagle difference and know what it's like to drive a clean car, because you can go get it washed as often as you want. Nothing feels better than driving a shiny, clean car, and nobody does it better than Eagle Auto Wash and Detailing Salon in Fairlawn Plaza. Soar with the Eagle. What is wrong with you next on 580 Sports Talk? .580 Sports Talk brings you What Is Wrong With You. 2 new stories competing today. Try to take down the Monday winner. Grandma Gang, the Fresno, California grandmother who drove her 3 minor grandchildren to go beat up a 13-year-old and used pepper spray on the victim's grandparents. Grandma wilding out. 2 new stories today. Spencer, would you like to go first?
Yeah, pretty simple story here. A Florida man wearing a Superman-themed beach cover-up was arrested by deputies after he confessed to something. According to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, deputies responded July 25th after a boat owner reported that someone had broken into the cabin of the boat and stolen several power tools. The sheriff's office said body cam video released by sheriff's office shows deputies approaching 57-year-old James Tidwell, who was wearing a Superman beach cover-up. During the encounter, he admitted to the crime. He was arrested at the scene. He was booked into jail on charges of burglary and petty theft. The image.
If I were going to commit a crime, I would probably want to draw as little attention to myself as possible.
Yes, not by wearing a Superman.
And I feel like,
get-up.
being a middle-aged man wearing a Superman cover-up is probably not the best way to not draw attention to oneself. I feel like that's drawing a lot of attention, in fact, to oneself. Also, Superman's a good guy.
Yeah.
You can't do nefarious things while dressing up like Superman. That just doesn't work.
Yep.
Anyhow, my story today is a listener submission. Listener Brendan Dworzinski sent this one my way. Appreciate that. Always enjoy when we get listener submissions. We go to Essex, Vermont, and we meet Kenneth Grenier, the musical director for the Essex Community Players production of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You familiar at all with the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Pretty wild play, cult classic, a lot of audience participation. It's something else. Anyhow, Kenneth Grenier, who's 26 years old, reported receiving a series of harassing and threatening texts in April from an unknown sender. And those threats eventually led the theater company to shut down production of the play due to safety concerns. Investigators traced the source of the messages to an IP address registered to Grenier's house. And when confronted by police, he admitted to creating a fake account and sending the messages to himself so he could step away from the show instead of dealing with what he described as difficulties with the cast and the crew.
Jeez.
He didn't want to deal with it anymore. So instead of just quitting, he set up a fake threat to get the show canceled. He was cited on a misdemeanor charge of false reports to law enforcement authorities.
That's a lot of effort.
It is. For I'm assuming the Essex Community Players, like, you're not getting rich off of that.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably your own time. Maybe there's a stipend or something. But yeah, this is a hobby. You like to put on performances for the community. And why not do the Rocky Horror Picture Show? Fun for the whole family.
Let's make money for the community.
Yeah, let's do something the community will appreciate. And then it turns into such a damn nightmare. I gotta call it a bomb threat or something. I gotta get out of this. I can't do it anymore, and I'm afraid of these people. I gotta get out of this. I love that story. I think that wins today.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I'm leaning toward it beating Grandma Gang.
I think so too.
Yeah, like. The idea of sending threatening text messages to yourself. Like, how would you threaten yourself in a text message?
I don't even know.
Like, how would you even go about doing that? Try to write things that make you cringe to read because they're about you? And like, you got to know, too, if you've watched like 5 minutes of a police procedural on television, they trace IP addresses, man. You can't set it from your own house.
Yeah.
Like, go to the library or something. Send them from there.
Yeah, I don't even know how you get away with it.
He didn't. He sure didn't. I wonder if anybody's going to take over the production of the play.
Yeah,
that's the a Rocky horror show. That is a horror show right there. That's going to be our winner. That's going to continue on What Is Wrong With You. We'll take a break. When we come back, Michael Swain of Fog.net joins us for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. We do it every Tuesday at this time. Michael's work at Fog.net is enhanced if you are a VIP subscriber. Now's a great time to become one with football season right around the corner. So close, in fact, Michael, that today was the first practice of the fall. Got to hear from Lance Leipold, got a look at practice today. And obviously the big question for KU going into fall camp is the quarterback picture, how that is going to unfold. What were your impressions of Cole Ballard, Isaiah Marshall, and Chase Jenkins from what you got to see today?
Yeah, it's one of those where, we got to see him throw a little bit, I think, in the spring. But, it's the spring and there's other stuff going on and you're maybe not as focused as you would be right for the first day of camp. And so I guess getting to watch him throw, I think Cole probably had the better of the days from the top two. That's the way it's been framed by Lance Leipold over the last couple of months, is that it's Cole Ballard, Isaiah Marshall is the top two, and then you get a little bit of a gap, and then it's Chase Jenkins. So out of those top two, Cole, I think, threw it better. I think you're seeing people catch on to the fact that he's got maybe a quicker release than Isaiah Marshall does, and I just think this is going to be an interesting kind of battle to see where it goes. I do think Ballard will probably be KU starter in week one, but as Lance Leipold said today, they'll play multiple quarterbacks, and I think it's easier to envision a world in which Cole maybe starts and you still use Isaiah as a change of pace type of guy because he is such a good athlete with his speed. So day one, early, but I think right now, you're kind of seeing maybe some of the reasons why Cole has been kind of tabbed behind the scenes as a guy that is one to watch. And so we'll have to see if Isaiah can put together a good camp and overtake Cole, because that's the thing about this too. Day one doesn't mean a whole lot if for the next 3 weeks Isaiah goes out there and plays really well and outplays Cole, and he'll win the battle if he does that. So that's what's going to make the next couple weeks pretty interesting.
In that scenario where Ballard wins the job but Marshall plays, because as you mentioned, Lance Leipold spoke today and said that he in plans to play both quarterbacks at some point this season. Is Marshall's role strictly as a gadget quarterback? How often do you think he would get opportunities? Would it be maybe a special package for him? Would it be maybe just 1 or 2 series over the course of a game to try and, just throw a little change of pace? What does that second quarterback role look like for Isaiah Marshall, if indeed that's what it ends up being?
Yeah, probably not too dissimilar to what you saw last year. Later in the year when, at that point, right, Isaiah had gained some trust with his ability to run the ball, and he got a couple snaps a game. I don't know if you're going to see Isaiah get a full series right in that instance, because I don't know if you want to all of a sudden throw off the rhythm of your starter. So I would say it's most likely in a way where you're going to have kind of a singular package or maybe multiple packages where, Isaiah's your quarterback, and he's the one that goes in, whether it be a run, play action, building off of just his overall athleticism. Like, that's kind of where the coaches will come in and kind of build that around him. But I think it'd be more singular package than it would be all right, you take this drive. Like, I think that's just so disruptive to rhythm and all of that. I think Leipold made it clear today that I don't think that's the way they're going to go with it.
Michael Swain of Fog.net joining us here for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Anybody else, obviously, it's one day. It's first day of practice. They're still kind of easing into some things. But was there anybody to you who maybe stood out just with maybe his activity or how frequently he was running with a group perceived to be the starters, where it just kind of raised your radar a little bit on a player today?
Yeah, you're right. It's early, right? They're not even in full pads, kind of light shoulder pads and shorts. I just think, you're going to watch Dylan Edwards a lot during camp, right? Because he's going to be one of the key figures for KU offensively, right? They need him to produce and stay healthy and be a consistent, versatile player. And so you saw today that they're going to use him in different ways. He was with the running backs for a little bit, and then when the running back went over to go do some other drills, wide receivers went over to be with the quarterbacks, and Dylan stuck around with the wide receivers then and ran some routes and did some more of that stuff. So I just think that he's someone that is going to catch your attention, right? Dynamic athlete, and is really going to have to be a key piece for KU offensively. Lance Leipold talked about it today. They want to be a team that can run the football, and I think Yasin Willis is going to be someone that really contributes there for KU. I think he could be the guy that ends the season with the most carries. But I think at the end of the day, you still need someone like Dylan Edwards to break a couple home runs over the course of the season to really help you move the football. If you do have, if you got a first-year starting quarterback, right, you can't expect him to drop back and pass 30 times a game and to be perfect. So you need to build an offense around them. And the best way to do that, right, is to have a good run game. And so I think Edwards and Willis are kind of two guys that are really key for that to happen.
We're joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. And Michael, you had a post on Fog.net this morning about 2 guys that Lance Leipold said are out for the year. One of them being potentially a projected starter, the Tulane transfer defensive tackle Trayvon McAlpine. Who are some guys that can fill that hole that's now needed at the defensive tackle spot after an unfortunate injury for McAlpine?
Yeah. You're looking at, honestly, it's the rest of the room. Trey was going to start, and it sounded like, at least in the spring, that he was having maybe even a more dominant spring, than a Blake Harold. So it's a big loss, and you're looking at a couple guys, right? If you're going to play Trey as like a nose tackle, right, and an odd front, then you're probably looking at someone like Enan Smalls, transfer from UAB, to be that guy. He's huge. The roster was updated today. He's 335 pounds, and he's just a mammoth. Like, he's just a ginormous human being. So you're looking at him. Hey, he's got to step up. And he had a lot of production last year playing as a D tackle at UAB. Hey, you got to do that again at Kansas. And then you kind of get into some other guys. You know, you got Marcus Calvin, who's been in the program for a while, played a little bit last year as a rotational piece. You need him to take a step forward. And then you're looking at some wild card guys, right? You got Jabril Conde from the D2 ranks, who physically, right, you look at him, man, impressive individual, but still adapting. It's a big jump to go from D2 to the Big 12, especially as a defensive lineman. And then you get someone like Kevin Oatis from Arkansas, who redshirted last year, but I think has a bright future ahead. And it's a question of how quickly can you bring him along? How comfortable are you playing him more than 15 snaps a game? You know, I think that's kind of the baseline of where he'll be this year. And if he has a great camp, you know, does he end up pushing for maybe closer to 20, 25 snaps? And all of a sudden, you're feeling a little bit better about the depth in the position. So, look, the injury is a big deal. He was a really good get for KU. I mean, Texas A&M, Nebraska, those are some of the schools that were after him in the portal, and KU was able to get him. So to lose out on having Trey available this year is a big deal.
A lot of guys returned from injury who were either limited or out for the spring, and a bulk of those players are potential factors in the defensive backfield, either cornerback or safety. Austin Alexander didn't practice in the spring. He was back today. Saeed Gibbs was limited. Mason Ellis, who played a bunch last year. Kajon Cummings-Coleman, a transfer. He was also back out there today. How does Lance Leipold right now kind of feel about the state of his secondary, the state of the depth at that position, and are they confident they're going to be able to find some playmakers at a spot that really went through a lot of ups and downs and has to replace some pieces from last year?
Yeah, I think they like the depth a lot. And you can look at kind of the safety spot, right? You got more or less 6 guys kind of for the 2 spots, and if you want to include kind of the nickel position as well, you know, then you're kind of talking 6 guys for 3 spots. And then a corner, I mean, you've got just a long list of players. Obviously, Austin Alexander off his injury or off the surgery he had after last season. And you've got, you know, Saeed, who's been around, and Julio Hurley's in his second year with the program. KU added Roman Pearson, transfer from Ball State over the winter. So KU's got a lot of options. It's, you know, whether it be a corner or safety. The question really is, how do these pieces come together, right? Who's going to play where at safety, and who's going to be your second starter next to Jalen Todd, and who's going to back up those players, who's going to be kind of your nickel cornerback. There's a lot to figure out. And so KU's got the pieces, right? They've got what looks to be a lot more good depth than maybe they had last year when you're asking if Lyric Rawls or, you know, Taylor Davis went down with an injury. You're asking guys to play who you probably don't feel great about playing. And so I think this year is in a different position for KU where you probably feel a little bit better about, hey, you know, let's say Corey Gordon starts it at strong safety. Hey, if he's got to miss some plays, hey, you got Christian Pritchett who can go out there. Or you've got, you know, boundary safety, say Taylor Davis starts. Hey, you got Jaden Harris who can go in. You know, Jaden started at Miami 2 years ago. Like, good player. So there's better options there, and I think it's just a question now of how do you put all these pieces together and make it all fit.
Couple more questions for Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. A blanket injunction for all graduates from the class of 2026, allowing them a 5th year if they played 4 in 4. It's going to open up a whole lot of possibilities for players to return to school. Already earlier today, a big piece of Indiana's defensive line from last year got hurt for the playoff. He announced he's returning to Indiana for a 5th season. Let's start with the football impact here. I'm sure Lance Leipold was asked about it today. What's the possibility that Kansas might be open to adding to their roster at this stage somebody with a lot of experience who just got an extra year of college football to play?
Yeah, they're looking at it. The window is much more narrow in football, right? Especially this day and age, right? It's not often since the 4-game redshirt rule came in that you see players not redshirt, right? Typically, schools were very liberal with the way they redshirted guys. So it's not like basketball, where this ruling really opens the floodgates for a lot of players. This one's a little more narrow. Justice Finkley is one who was with KU last year, obviously contributed, started at defensive end. He could now theoretically return to college. He did not enter the transfer portal earlier this year. So if the transfer portal rules are not touched by this ruling or any upcoming rulings, if he wants to play college football, returning to KU. So that'd be a name to keep an eye on. And then outside of that, like, you look at it, and right, I mentioned D-tackle. Like, if you could find a way to add D-tackle who's got experience, you definitely go down that. And so I think KU's been very open that, hey, if we can find a way to get better and make this roster better, it's an avenue we'll go down and see what happens. But, again, the pool of player, and considering the time of year that this is taking place, where best case scenario, you're looking at they're getting in, midway through camp? Like, that's not a lot of time to get acclimated, right? What sort of football shape are these players in? So, narrow window for football. And I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of if anything really does pop up. And obviously we got to see, too, how does this appeal from the NCAA go? What other subsequent lawsuits come out from this? Like, there's still, I feel like, a lot more that's going to come from this.
Last one for you, Michael. Last week, the university hired Sam Strantz as the executive director of front office strategy and operations. You had mentioned, talking with us last week, that the athletic department was going to make a hire of that sort of bent, and that was the hire, Sam Strantz, coming to the University of Kansas from the Houston Rockets, where he'd been senior team counsel, among other roles. What's the immediate impact of this position? What is the hope that Strantz will bring to the athletic department?
Yeah, so this is kind of a broad general manager. It's really an NIL revenue sharing contract role. He's got a law background. He worked with the Houston Rockets on strategy. Before that, worked with, I believe it's Toyota Center, whatever the arena is there in Houston is what he worked with before. So, look, you can compare it to basketball. I've seen people say, oh, Kansas has basketball GM. No, that's not what this is. This is someone that will help KU with the contracts when it comes to basketball players, will help KU with the language of revenue sharing agreements, will help with the overall strategy of how you use revenue sharing. That's kind of what this role is going to be. And it's an important one, right? And especially, you look at some other sports, right? Women's basketball is going to work with the recruiting department there. Other kind of your non-revenue sports, like there's going to be other ways that you can have an impact in this new era. And we got to see, too, with the Protect College Sports Act, hey, what does this new potential retention budget look like, right? What's that look like for Olympic sports? Schools like KU are already really pushing hard to get to that, full funded revenue sharing cap. How can you get above that? So in this evolving landscape, right, you've added someone with a law background who's got experience with professional sports and strategy, and then you're bringing him into a college environment that is becoming increasingly professional. So I think it's a really interesting hire, one of those where over time I think you're going to find that he sits into a really nice kind of spot in the hierarchy in the athletic department, can help Travis Goff, can help other coaches, and I think it's an interesting new role that you're seeing at KU.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and joins us every Tuesday at this time here on the program for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, always a pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Awesome. Sounds great. Talk to you next week.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take a break, come back, and wrap up this 4 o'clock hour. 580 Sports Talk next. .456 on 580 Sports Talk as we wind down this 4 o'clock hour. We have been a bit neglectful in our countdown to Chiefs kickoff these last handful of days, and our excitement that we've actually got Chiefs content to talk about. We've let the countdown slip a little bit. With apologies to numbers 46 through 42, Mason Pline, Bryce Phillips, Cooper McDonald, Jack Cochran, and Jaden Ott. Today we reached 41 days to Chiefs kickoff. We're 41 days away from the Chiefs and the Broncos on Monday night at Arrowhead Stadium to wrap up week 1 of the NFL season. And number 41 for the Chiefs, well, he's a name Chiefs fans know, and if anybody else ever gets to know his name, that means he really screwed up. That's because it's long snapper James Winchester. What a life that must be. 12 years with the team.
Yeah.
No reason to replace him. Like, long snapper is the ultimate, like, set and forget position unless they're real bad.
Honestly,
you got to be
punter's the
so
same way.
bad. Punter can be the same way. But, like, you have a bad punter, you want to get rid of that guy ASAP.
Yeah, but if he's good, you're not. I mean,
but yeah, good. Like, those guys hang around forever. And like the Colquitt for Kansas City, and those guys hang around a long time. Long snappers, though, even better. Like, that's the position with the most job security. Just do your job correctly the 5 to 10 times you're called upon to do it every single game, and you can play for as long as you want. You're never going to get traded. You're probably not going to move city to city. It's ultimate job security.
Until a new coach comes in and he brings the other guy from where he was before.
Well, yeah.
That happened to the Commanders snapper, then Washington football snapper.
Salute to James Winchester, number 41. We've got headlines. We've got Mitch Holthus at 525. One more hour, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Third and final hour of this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, rocking with you on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, on your mobile device, on the MSC radio app, and on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for being with us. We'll hand it off at the top of the 6 o'clock hour to the Royals Radio Network. Game 1 of a 6-game homestand for the boys in blue this week. They welcome the Minnesota Twins to town. Final meeting of the season between the Royals and the Twins, these 3 games. It feels like they just met. Well, they did last week in Minneapolis. That ultimate grand slam by Cody Clemens, sparking what has been a 4-game losing streak for the Royals that they enter play tonight on the back of. They'll try and snap the skid tonight behind Randy Dobnak against Twins right-hander Joe Ryan. First pitch at 6:40. Action right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. We'll get to a little bit of that later on this hour. Got some random question Tuesday that we're going to do as well. Coming up in about 18 minutes, Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, will join us for our second training camp report. Talking about Travis Kelce today, the old married man, as Mitch put it on yesterday's show by way of a teaser. We'll talk to Mitch, hear a little bit from Travis Kelce, a training camp report with Mitch Holthus, brought to us by Azure Credit Union and Hy-Vee. Our second one, he will be with us, Mitch will, every day this month on the show. Well, I guess not the 31st, not August 31st, but every day for the next 4 weeks, all the way through August 28th. I forgot there were 31 days in August. This hour's Dan Lucero Gaff is brought to you by Your Name Here. Anyhow, that's a lot of Mitch still in the month of August. This is the month of Mitch here on 580 Sports Talk. We've also got some sports headlines that we will get to as well. Want to hear from you? 785-272 9429 is the number. You can also chat with us and amongst yourselves in the 580 Sports Talk community on our live chat on YouTube. Name of the channel is 580 Sports Talk. Drop your thoughts in and play music trivia amongst yourselves too, if that's what you prefer.
This is the daily new
That's
thing.
the thing. That's the thing. Everybody's loving it in the chat. So we encourage the fun. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us, enjoying the show. Again, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Go subscribe to the channel if you have yet to do so. And doesn't cost you anything but a click or a tap of your screen. But let's get to these 580 Sports Talk headlines, and let's begin today. It is so close. You can taste the leather. It's so close. College football is coming up upon us, and the reason that you can feel it coming closer today is because we have a coaches poll. The U.S. LBM coaches poll released today by USA Today. There are, let me do some math here, 72 votes in this top 25 poll, the first one of the year, and there are 6 different teams that receive first place votes, which indicates to you that this could be a very wide open college football season. Top of the heap, Ohio State, 38 of those 72 first place votes. They are your preseason number 1 in the coaches poll. Oregon with 6 first place votes is number 2. Georgia with 7 first place votes is 3rd, followed by Texas with 2 first place votes, and Notre Dame 5th with 5 first place votes. The defending national champions from Indiana received 14 first place votes, but still finished 6th in the poll. So they got the second most first place votes, but finished 6th in the poll, which tells you there's a wide range of beliefs in what it's going to be under Kurt Signetti, trying to follow up their dominant, unbeaten national championship season. Those are the 6 teams receiving first place votes in the poll. Miami, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss round out the top 10. So for those who are keeping track, that's 3 in the Big Ten, 1 in the ACC, 1 Notre Dame, and 5 SEC teams in the top 10. Alabama is 11th, followed by the first Big 12 team in the poll, Texas Tech. They're 12th. LSU, USC, and BYU round out the top 15 in the USLBM coaches poll. 16 through 20, Michigan, Penn State, Tennessee, Washington, and SMU. 2 more Big 12 teams in the last 5 in the top 25. Utah at number 21, followed by Iowa, Clemson, Houston. Preseason top 25, Houston, number 24. And Mizzou rounds out the preseason top 25 again, according to the coaches. Louisville, first team out, also receiving votes. Louisville and Florida were very close to reaching the poll, 26th and 27th, respectively. And that would make TCU 28th, which would make Arizona 31st. Oklahoma State also received votes. They received 22 votes. Arizona State received 8 votes. Kansas State received a single vote in the preseason top 25, the same number of votes as Jacksonville State, Cal, and Hawaii. So that is the preseason perception of Colin Klein's Wildcats. 6 different teams getting first place votes. That really stands out. And some of that is, I mean, naturally there's more uncertainty than before because of the transfer portal and how that changes the face of rosters. But interesting to see the coaches with 6 different opinions on who's going to be number 1. We'll see if there are that many teams that get first place votes in the AP poll whenever that comes out. But that's your first USLBM coaches poll released by USA Today. Ohio State, your preseason number 1. They got the bullseye on their back in Columbus. Text from the 785. It's still so surprising that Indiana won the title that I was surprised all over again when you refer to them as the defending national champs, right? Not a fever dream. That really happened.
Yeah.
That really happened. And not like, oh, it's Cinderella pulling out a bunch of fluky wins. Now, Indiana beat that ass. Over and over and over again, they beat that ass until they won the national championship.
I can't remember who it was. It might have been Brent McMurphy. I think it was. One would say respected sports journalist. Some might not say it.
It'd be Brett McMurphy,
yes. He took a screenshot of FBschedules.com of the next 4 seasons of the non-conference play for Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And all he said was cupcake emoji after cupcake emoji after cupcake emoji. So
yeah, they're not playing anybody. They're not playing anybody in a G4 or the P4.
But again, these things are so far in advance. Who would have thought that
they play 9 conference games, and the Big Ten is good. It's not like they don't play anybody.
Yeah. But my thought is, look, these are done years in advance.
A lot of them are.
Before you invest heavily in your program and win a national championship. So,
yeah, I think that I don't blame Kurt Signetti or anybody in the athletic department for not loading up the preseason schedule, the non-conference schedule for 2027 back before they understood any of what Indiana football all of a sudden has become was possible. Yeah, don't blame them for that. If they're going to continue to win like this and schedule like that, they will deserve whatever criticism comes their way. Next headline, Spencer.
Yeah, I got to keep it local. It's just coming down here in the last couple of hours. The Washburn-Ichabod women's soccer team was picked 4th, not in the MIAA poll. They were picked 4th in the United Soccer Coaches NCAA Division II Women's Soccer Coaches National preseason ranking on Tuesday, coming off a very strong 14-4-6 season where they went 8-0-4 in MIAA play, making it to the D2 championship semifinals. The only teams above them are Florida Tech, Cal Poly, Pomona, and Franklin Pierce University. Their home opener is against preseason number 21 Maryville on Thursday, August 27th at 6 p.m. at Yager Stadium.
Coming up in about 3 weeks here. Davey Phillips has that program cooking, and a couple of Final Four appearances in the last 3 years, and tabbed for another one potentially this season. Next headline, we gave you some Royals breaking news earlier in the show with Matt Quatrero telling the assembled media at Kauffman Stadium today that both Stephen Kolek and Luwinder Avila would need Tommy John surgery. Now, why it took 72 hours to decide that Avila was going to need Tommy John, where it took like 3 weeks to figure that out for Kolek and longer for Cole Reagans, is anyone's guess. And again, it has not been a good year for the Royals training and medical staff. But that is 2 more pitchers headed for the operating table and Tommy John surgery. That makes 5 pitchers on the Royals 40-man roster who will had Tommy John surgery since the season began in March. Ben Caderna, Ryan Bergert, Cole Reagans, and now Stephen Kolek and Luwinder Avila. Even in a best-case scenario, Avila and Kolek are not likely to impact the big league roster in 2027. You're looking at a 12-month timeline to return to the mound typically. So that would be next August at this time. And then not only is that a return to the mound, that's a return to game action. You get to the minor leagues, you get to complex games.
2028.
Yeah, it's much more likely that the next time we see Avila and Kolek throw the ball in anger for the Kansas City Royals, it'll be 2028. Other Royals transactions today, there was some good news, a ray of sunshine in the clouds. Bobby Witt Jr. is back. He was activated from the 10-day injured list today, only 2-3 days shy of the minimum or beyond the minimum 10 days that he missed with that back injury. So good to see that his health is improved. I guess we could say we hope it is with the medical staff and their track record this year. Who knows? But Bobby Witt Jr. is back off of the IL. The corresponding move there is the designating for assignment of infielder Andrew Velasquez. The Royals also DFA'd Matt Strahm today, and what a disaster Strahm's second tour of duty with the Royals ended up being. Acquired this offseason in a 1-for-1 trade with the Phillies. The Royals sending Jonathan Bolin to Philadelphia. Matt Strahm posted a 7.32 earned run average in 35 2/3 innings over 41 appearances, allowing 29 runs, all earned on 39 hits, including 12 home runs, nearly a little over, in fact, just fractionally over 3 home runs per 9 innings. He was worth negative 1.3 wins above replacement. That makes him not just the least valuable Royal. That made him, in just 41 relief appearances, the least valuable player in baseball. There was nobody less valuable. Nobody hurt their team more this year than Matt Strahm. Meanwhile, Jonathan Bolin,
same amount of appearances, 41 appearances.
Yeah, same number of appearances for Jonathan Bolin. He has been worth 2.2 wins more than Matt Strahm. An ERA of 3.03 and a stellar 48-9 strikeout to walk ratio in 38 2/3 innings. And in the cozier confines of Citizens Bank Park, the 29-year-old Bolin has only allowed 4 home runs in 38 2/3. I think it's safe to chalk that trade up as a loss. The Royals recalled Jose Cuas from AAA Omaha to fill the roster spot, although Carlos Duran, who was recently acquired in the trade for Chris Bubich with the Dodgers, he is not yet with the organization, and there was some thought that he might get that 26-man roster spot. So that's something to watch. The Royals could DFA Cuas to make room for Duran. The Royals today also claimed left-handed pitcher Connor Thomas off of waivers from the Athletics. He had passed through waivers after the A's claimed him from the Braves not long ago. Thomas has made a couple of major league relief appearances in 11 2/3 innings. He has an ERA of 2.083. Excuse me, I'm being told I misplaced the decimal. His career ERA is 20.83, which is perhaps why he had found himself released. Connor Thomas this year with the Braves, 6 1/3 innings, 15 runs allowed on 15 hits, 6 walks, and 4 strikeouts. To give you an idea, Tyler Tolbert in 4 2/3 innings has given up 13 runs.
Jeez.
So Yes. The Royals picked up a pitcher who's been putting up similar numbers to their mop-up middle infielder, and they assigned him to AAA Omaha. So those are your roster moves for the Royals today. Give me another headline quickly, Spencer.
Yes, just get through these quick little. It's watch list season as the Maxwell Award put out their watch list. No KU players, but from K-State, Avery Johnson and Joe Jackson. I believe that's the most outstanding player in college football.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Outland Trophy, that's lineman, right?
Yep.
John Pastor from K-State's on there. No KU on there. And K-State football will host Sam Houston State September 15th of 2029 in a non-conference scheduling that was announced by Sam Houston State today.
Couple more NFL notes to get to before we wrap up our headlines. A lot of guys got paid today. Bijan Robinson, who had been holding in at Falcons camp, received his contract extension today. It is a record deal for a running back, 3-year extension worth up to $75 million, $51 million guaranteed
Crazy.
for a running back. The only running back who's ever been guaranteed more money in NFL history is Jeremiah Love, who got $53 million guaranteed with the Cardinals. His 4-year rookie deal was fully guaranteed. And judging by what they're saying about him at Cardinals camp, he might not be good at football. There might be a problem there. So Bijan Robinson got $51 million guaranteed. Previous to Love and Robinson, the most guaranteed money for a running back ever was $36 million given to Saquon Barkley. Robinson will now make $22.25 million per year, which surpasses Barkley's $20.6 million as a record for running backs. Zay Flowers got himself paid today. $108 million guaranteed.
Back up the Brinks
on a
truck.
4-year extension for Zay Flowers. I don't think Zay Flowers is a $108 million wide receiver.
I don't either.
I think they are paying a number 2 wide receiver, number 1 wide receiver money. That I feel like I'm not mad. I'm not mad at Zay Flowers. Just feel like that's a lot of money. That's more than I would have anticipated Zay Flowers getting. Also, a historic contract extension for Bears right tackle Darnell Wright, who became maybe the best right tackle in the league last year. He's now the highest paid right tackle in NFL history. 4-year extension, $116 million, $93 million guaranteed, $29 million per year average, trailing only Washington left tackle Laramie Tunsil among all offensive linemen in the NFL.
Huntington, West Virginia. That's where he's from. That's Marshall. Where Marshall is.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, joins us next for a training camp report here on 580 Sports Talk. 526 on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday, and it's the second of our training camp reports with the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, here on the program. Our training camp reports with Mitch are brought to you by Hy-Vee. The world's best tailgating begins at Hy-Vee, proud official sponsor of the Kansas City Chiefs, and by Azura Credit Union, where you can visit with the Azura Credit Union Home Loans team. And the focal point of today's training camp report, Mitch, is Travis Kelce. And I have to ask, Mitch, did you go to the wedding?
Well, I've got to be totally honest. I didn't make the invite list, and I was desperate. I even offered to be an acolyte. I was going to light the candles and, sneak in as like a New York Knicks vendor, anything to get in, and I didn't make it. It's called denied. So that's where we're at. I've just got to be real about it.
Got to be the bigger man about it. I totally understand. Well, it was a lengthy guest list. They know a lot of people, and so I'm sure there are lots of notables who didn't quite make the cut. But a notable offseason once again for one of the most famous men in the National Football League, Travis Kelce, and now he enters a season that. There was, again, some doubt about whether or not he was going to run it back for another year with the Chiefs. But he's back out there, and he's 100% in on trying to redeem the Chiefs' disappointment of last season. And all accounts, it seems and feels like the same old Travis Kelce, that he is the same guy, that consistent veteran leadership presence that he's been over the years for this team.
I would have lost $100 to you the last 2 years because I would have bet that he was not coming back. He was so melancholy at the end of 2024, and especially Super Bowl 59 week in New Orleans, that I thought, man, no way he's coming back. And then he came back. And last year after the 6-11, I thought there's just so many, the tread is thin on the tires, and he came back. And I think one of the reasons he came back was his teammates and camp. And yeah, he hates long drive drill, but he loves camp, and he loves being with his guys, and realized once that's done, that's over. And nothing in his life, even being married to the most notable star on earth, can replicate that. And I asked him about St. Joseph. I just asked him what has to get done. And this accentuates your point, is that he loves being back here and getting away from the other distractions, but also realizing to be on task about something is special to him.
Well, the biggest thing is just making sure that everybody understands the goal at hand, and that's we're here to work. When we roll the balls out in St. Joe, man, it's not only a time to build the chemistry and build the camaraderie of the team, but it's time to build the mold of this team. We got to find a 53-man roster that's going to take us to the Super Bowl, and I think it's on the players, players' plate to be able to make that job as hard as possible for Coach Reed and Brett Veach. And from that point on, man, the culture will take care of itself. We got a lot of really good guys that this game and this season means a lot to them, and I think you guys are going to see that through our play this year.
That clip just tells you his priorities in order, and he wants to make everybody else feel that way, and he has that impact. And he looks 36. I mean, Father Time undefeated, but he may not be a 1,000-yard receiver and 12 touchdowns, but he's going to do whatever he can to get this team back to being a division champion and winning in the playoffs again.
A lot of times in football and across all sports, you have teams who understand there might be a veteran guy on their team who's been around a long time, who doesn't have a lot of time left in their career, and they rally around that. They rally around a veteran leader, try to get them a ring if they've never gotten a ring before. Obviously, Travis has 3. He's not ring hunting in that way, where it's the last box to check on his career resume. He's been fortunate to check that box 3 times. But do you sense that there is some of that in this camp and some of that among his teammates, especially the guys who played with him a long time, that they want to make sure that Travis gets the ending to his career from a team accomplishment standpoint that suits him, that he deserves?
Yeah, it's a two-way current here, because what I stated before is also coming back the other way from his teammates. He's so close to Patrick, and then guys like Noah Gray in the tight end room, or Chris Jones, and those guys want to do all they can to make Travis go out in style and on fire as well. And so I think it goes back and forth, and that creates a very positive undertone to this camp to be in that regard. When you look at what he's done, and our guys, it's not lost on them, the fact that he has the most catches of any receiver in NFL history in the playoffs, to have 27 more, I believe, than Jerry Rice. For him to have in the playoffs, and Rob Gronkowski's played, 22 playoff games. Kels has played 25 and has 80 more catches in the playoffs than Rob Gronkowski. 80 more. Our guys know that. They understand his greatness, and yet they see how much he works and realizes the time that they have with him is somewhat limited. So that's led to an interesting spirit to this camp. So you're very perceptive in that regard.
Talking to Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He joins us, courtesy of Azure Credit Union and Hy-Vee, for these training camp reports on 580 Sports Talk. The other aspect of Travis Kelce that I really have admired so much, especially these last couple of years, and you kind of touched on this in your opening remarks about him, is this is not a guy who is out there because he needs the paycheck. He is not, I don't think, necessarily chasing anything or a last gasp or a last grab at something. There's not a record or a ring that he hasn't. He's checked all the boxes. He's out there because he loves this stuff. And I want to know, get a sense from you how much that permeates when guys see a guy who's 36, who's been through the rigors, who's been through the training camps, and still maintains that pure love of ball and love of being out there. How much of an example does that set, and how important is that to have a figure that's as influential as Travis Kelce, who really is a guy who embodies love of the game?
That leads to the work ethic and attacking every day and every drill, and that sounds cliche, but when Patrick and Kels do it, there's no excuse for anyone else. And the fact that he has fun playing this game. They've talked about pads the last 2 days and having it be fun. And so when guys see that, the younger guys, I think especially coming out of the NIL culture, and they see there's more depth to it than, hey, what am I getting paid today? Then that leads to, I think, a potential for success for a team, because then you start to value the right things. The paycheck takes care of itself. And so it really is, I think, a strong comparison to what Salvador Perez does for the Royals. I think he and Kelce are the same guy. And the fact that Salvi plays and gets such joy out of playing, Kels does too, even though it's a very hard sport. And so, there's some sublime benefit to the rest of the roster when they go, well, maybe that's what I ought to do. Maybe that's how I ought to approach the game.
Kelce caught 76 passes in 2025 for 851 yards and 5 touchdowns. And by his immense career standards, that appears as a decline. But by the standards of the tight end position, that's one of the most productive guys at the position still in the National Football League. So the question is not, can Travis Kelce, entering his age 37 season, be the 110-plus catch, 1,100-yard monster that he was in his prime, but can he continue to be one of the most productive players at his position? And it feels like the answer that keeps coming back when you look at him, when you watch him go through drills, is the answer is kind of, well, why can't he?
And I would say the answer to that, I would agree, but the answer to that is a non-Kelsey answer. He's got to get some help. Otherwise, teams are going to double team him and bite him and pinch him and hold him and grab him and pull him to the ground, even at 36, until someone else can prove to be consistent to take that heat off of him. Today was a goal line situation in pads, and that's always a little spirited. But the offense was really good, and they scored, I think, 4 straight times against the defense. But it was Ken Walker on a power run. Trey Smith made a great block. There was a counter pitch to Brashard Smith and a kick-out block by Josh Simmons. There was a great play-action fake and touchdown to Noah Gray. And the reason I say all that is the fact that none of that included Kelsey. Once you establish some other guys, especially in the red zone or the gold zone, 30 going in, and you've got the potential to score, then your answer becomes, yeah, Kelsey's going to get a lot more productive just because someone else has taken the heat off of him. And when he becomes another weapon to go with everything else, then this team becomes dangerous. If he's just the weapon and nobody else can really consistently help him out, then he's going to continue just to battle and make it's even harder because of the coverages and the way they play him because he's older. And so you catch my drift here. Ken Walker helps Kelsey answer that question as much as anybody on this team offensively to help.
The Chiefs have attempted to get younger at the tight end position behind Kelsey. Obviously, Noah Gray's been around now for a few years, but Jared Wiley was a draft pick entering his 3rd year. You've got guys like Trey Watson and Jake Brenningstool. I know they brought John Michael Gillenborg in as a UDFA. Unfortunately, he was placed on the PUP. And they have tried to have younger guys come in at the position. We talk about Kelsey's ability to mentor and be an example. We've talked about it in the course of this conversation. But what is the hope for those younger guys at the position that they can learn and they can absorb from watching Kelsey do what he does?
It must happen. I say, well, that'd be nice. It must happen. That room, the tight end room, has got to have increased productivity. And part of the answer I just gave you a little bit ago on having threats, and Noah Gray had a touchdown in the red zone. It's great. And he did an excellent job in making it happen. That has to happen. There's got to be productivity out of Jared Wiley. There's got to be even more productivity out of Noah Gray, kind of recapturing what he did a couple years ago when he went on a sizz when Kels was hurt. That must happen for this team to get to 11-6 or 12-5 and win the division. That's not something that's a luxury. Now, Gillenborg's already on IR, so he's done. He's the Kansas City kid that played at Wyoming. But there could be a 4th tight end on this team to go with the 3 that you mentioned, even like a Trey Watson or Jake Brenningstool, who's in his 2nd year. He battled injuries last year, but he was a highly productive player at Clemson. But this is a team that could put 4 tight ends on its opening day roster and play some 13 personnel with 1 running back and 3 tight ends. But the answer is that has to happen. You can't sit here and just muddle and puddle around in that tight end room and get 200 yards out of the rest of those guys and 1 touchdown. That's not going to play. So to me, the real pressure is on Jared Wiley. I think that if he can stay healthy, they're counting on him to give them more than just picking up a first down on 4th and 1 against Dallas, because there wasn't a whole lot else that happened from him. And he showed the propensity at TCU and Texas before that he can get big plays. He can run a seam route. He can get a 7 route or a 9 route and get a 20-yard gain. But that has to happen because that room has just been void of a whole lot other than, a spurt by Noah Gray and then Kelsey's productivity over his career.
Mitch Holthus' training camp reports with us here on 580 Sports Talk are brought to us by Hy-Vee. The world's best tailgating begins at Hy-Vee, proud official sponsor of the Kansas City Chiefs, and by Azura Credit Union. Visit with the Azura Credit Union Home Loans team. Mitch, who will we be talking about when we reconvene tomorrow?
Well, we're staying in the whole Hall of Fame realm, or could be Hall of Famer, and that's where Chris Jones is at. But we're going to dive into a stat that people don't think about that Chris Jones must recapture. And it's not sacks. But we're going to get into Chris Jones and why he has a chance to have a renaissance year, much like Kelsey. And we're going to dive into number 95 tomorrow.
We'll look forward to the chat. Mitch Holthus is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. Mitch, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
That is Mitch Holthus. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, a little Random Question Tuesday before we preview tonight's Royals Twins tilt at the K. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again to Mitch Holthus for joining us. Again, that is going to be a daily occasion through August 28th here on 580 Sports Talk. In case you're new to things around here, the training camp reports throughout Chiefs training camp in the preseason. Mitch will join us every day at 5:25 here on 580 Sports Talk with insight and player quotes that you're just not getting anywhere else. Let's do a little Random Question Tuesday before we pivot to Royals baseball. We've got a little bit of extra time. Yesterday was the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Your answer doesn't have to be a baseball trade. You are, of course, welcome to play along on Random Question Tuesday. Text line is 785-272-9429. You can answer on YouTube as well, or live chat, 580 Sports Talk. The question today has to do with trades. What was the trade that ripped your guts out as a fan? What was the trade you took the hardest? The trade that made you the most upset? Maybe if you were a kid, it even made you cry. What was that trade for you? The trade that you hated the most? And it could be for like reasons of you think your team got fleeced, or it could just be they traded my favorite player and it made me sad. But what was the trade that broke your heart as a fan?
Juan Soto.
Really?
Because
they ended up pretty good in that deal, you know.
I mean, they did.
James Wood got hurt last night. Killer for my fantasy team. Anyway, nobody cares about my fantasy team.
I don't know. It told me that the owners of the Nationals are never, they did one thing for 7 years, 8 years maybe. They paid money for 8 years that's going to cost them for another 10 years because of deferred contracts, and they just don't want to do it again. So
yeah,
when that happened,
you lost faith in the ownership group.
Yes, that
sure.
I already had kind of lost faith in, but it really, thank the Lord I don't live there anymore, because it would be hard for me to be truly the fan that I want to be.
Sure.
Being here and not being able to watch them every day, but following them is better than like, oh, I can watch their games, but I'm going to choose not to. Or go to games I'm going to choose not to because I don't want to support the ownership.
So
yeah.
My answer is actually pretty similar. It was when the Rockies traded Nolan Arenado and kicked in $50 million to make it happen. And they thought they were doing the guy a favor. And what they were really doing is just that particular ownership group just signaling they had no clue and they had no direction. And that as long as Dick Monfort had his thumb on the scale, things were never going to get better. And it did. I think that had altered the relationship between the fans and that organization. And there will be a lot of people for whom it will never be the same, and they'll never be able to patch that up. Things are a little better now. Organizationally, they're a little bit more normal. There's a little bit less Dick Monfort influence, which is good. But that was the one that kind of broke me. From the text line, from the 785s, the Zach Greinke trade was the first one I remember as a kid, but the return ended up being worth it. They got Lorenzo Cain and Alcides Escobar in that trade. So they came back. They came back pretty good. Text from the 785 says my opposite answer was Matt Stafford. I was happy when he went to L.A., but the trade that made me the saddest was Greg Maddux going to the Cubs.
I see that.
So that was my random question. Did you ever random question, Spencer?
I kind of had one, but it was weird. And I saw this, and
is it less weird?
It's a little less weird.
Okay. What's up?
So I was telling you between break, currently the KU hoops and football beat reporter for Kansas City Star, Shreyas Latta, is at MCI, and he posted on X, here at MCI, they've had an announcement for a passenger named Christian Brown a few times, and it's for a flight to Denver. I presume it's him, but I don't know. Kind of along that line. Have you ever been somewhere and they've had to call your name over the intercom? Whether it be now or as a kid, because when I was
I was goofing around the grocery store when I was 5 and got separated from my parents, and they had to call my name over the intercom at the Safeway.
Did I ever tell this story about how when I was a kid, I was at Hershey Park in Pennsylvania with my cousin, and they had sent the security out for a search party for us?
Oh no!
Because we wanted to go on one ride. That ride had a 2-hour wait. And then we decided to go to another ride instead. And we saw them. We were up in the air and we saw them. I was like, hey, there they are. They're sitting down at the picnic area eating. And then we went to another one, and then we finally found them, and we were very much yelled at by our parents.
I can imagine. Yeah, they scared the crap out of them, I'm sure.
Yes, and I mean, I was probably 10. 8 or 10, yeah.
Anywho, another answer to the previous question from the 785. It wasn't a trade, but I hated it when the Braves let Freddie Freeman walk. Yeah, I mean they chose Matt Olson instead, and Matt Olson's been really good for them. But like when it's your guy, it's your guy. You don't really care about. I don't. It doesn't matter who you get in the short term. It's like that's my guy, and he's not on my team anymore. That sucks. It is crazy, like, when you really think about it. Like that, like, when Lane Thomas, my wife and I were watching the game when Lane Thomas got traded in the middle of the game, right? And he comes off the field, and he's getting hugs from his teammates. And you just think about, like, I asked my wife, like, what would it be like if USD 501 could, like, trade you to a school district in Pierre, South Dakota? Like, they need a first-grade teacher in Beaumont, Texas. And we've sent you there for some Scantrons and like X amount of science textbooks. Or we needed a high school science teacher, and there was a really good one in Eugene, Oregon, and so we're trading you there. Like, you just uproot your whole life. Like, only in sports, right?
It would be like if when we worked for a corporate company, if they were like, hey, we want you in San Antonio, Texas. Or
it can happen in the corporate world for sure. Like, I have a buddy of mine who works for Pepsi, and he's lived in a different city like every 2-3 years his entire adult life. He's had to move his family around, like the whole thing. But yeah, he's lived in a bunch of different places. Just goes from city to city, and like it's a promotion each time, so it's not like he's complaining too bad. But it's hard when you start having kids. That gets a little tougher.
Yeah, I've got another answer to a trade. When the Nats packaged Trey Turner to the Dodgers,
sure,
with Max Scherzer, it brought back Josiah Gray, who's good, but now he's probably never going to be as good because he's rehabbing from Tommy John. Keibert Ruiz having a renaissance season but not that good. And then 2 Joe Schmoes that aren't even prospects anymore.
It's baseball trades that hurt the most.
Yeah, and then I was like, well, at least like maybe he can re-sign with the Dodgers, and I won't have to. I'll see him on national TV in the playoffs and whatever, but I won't have to see him all the time. Nope, he goes and signs with the freaking Phillies, and now it's like every time the Nats play the Phillies, Trey Turner does something great, and it's like, come on, learners.
From the 785 points out that obviously you get transferred to the military, you get told where to go, and then for the 913, it happens in sports or with Catholic priests, but then those reasons aren't usually good. And we're going to leave that there and talk some baseball. Royals and Twins tonight at the K. First of a 3-game set. The Royals so far this season are 6-4 against the Twins, and so that means 1 win in the next 3 games. They'll have at least won a season series against a division foe. Randy Dobnak, who has pitched well in a Royals uniform, no earned runs in his last 2 starts, spanning 12 innings, takes the ball tonight against Joe Ryan. Do the Royals own Joe Ryan? They've beaten him the last 2 times out and 4 of the last 6. And in his last 2 outings against the Royals, Ryan has allowed 12 earned runs. Or I'm sorry, in his last 4 starts against the Royals, he has given up 15 earned runs in 18 innings. They might own Joe Ryan now. He might be off the Royal killer list. Of course, I say that tonight, and he'll shut him out. The lineup tonight for Kansas City: Carter Jensen will do the catching, Bobby Witt Jr. at short, Jack Caglione at first, Salvador Perez is DHing, Michael Massey bats 5th at second base, Nick Lofton's at 3rd, hitting 6th. Then it's the outfield in order: Isaac Collins, John Rave, and Kyle Isbell batting 9th. For the Twins, Trevor Larnach will lead off in left field. Ryan Jeffers is the catcher. Josh Bell is the DH. Royal killer Cody Clemens bats cleanup at second base. Then it's Royce Lewis at first, Brooks Lee at 3rd, Alan Roden in right, Luke Keeschall in center, and Ryan Kreidler at short.
At least they can't have a whatever you call it grand
Cannot
slam.
be walked off on an ultimate grand slam tonight.
Yes, that can't happen tonight.
And that bullpen door, when it opens the rest of the season, Matt Strom's not walking through that door. And we can all be glad about that. 6 o'clock pregame, 6:40 first pitch tonight from Kauffman Stadium. We're back after this with a final word on 580 Sports Talk. Time to put a wrap on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Spencer Dupuis, what you got?
Yeah, I've been kind of thinking and gnawing over when I went back, I didn't hear it live, but I went back and heard Matt Verderam's thoughts on Cyrus Allen. And you mentioned them on the show yesterday about how, like, oh, why are we hyped about him being the guy, right?
Well, not necessarily why, just like if we're this hyped about Cyrus Allen, that I don't know if that's like the best sign.
But we came into the year, we've known this. We've been known this, that like, yeah, Rashee Rice, like, he's okay, but he's going to get himself in trouble off the field. Xavier Worthy, can he really do it? All he does is get injured. Like, for a guy in the 5th round, if he's going to be your guy, like, they didn't draft a receiver higher this year. They chose to go Cyrus Allen in the 5th round, wait it out. If you can get that value out of a 5th rounder, I think it's huge. And I think if he can stay healthy, one thing, that's another huge thing. Again, it's so early in camp. We got to see rubber meet the road in a preseason game. Also, preseason football is Thursday. I know it's not going to be good preseason football, but whatever.
Yeah, the Chiefs preseason opener is next Saturday. We're getting close. Final word for me, go vote. You got an hour. You got an hour to go vote. Your polling places will be open until 7 o'clock. If you have not voted in today's statewide primary elections, go vote. If you are an unaffiliated voter and you think, well, there's no sense in me going to vote because I can't vote in either the primaries because Kansas has closed primaries, there's a pretty big ballot issue that you should vote on. You should make your voice heard on that particular measure. We've been running nonstop ads for it. You know what it's about. You know what the yes side and the no side think. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just here to tell you, exercise your right as a citizen if you're a registered voter. Go and vote today. You got an hour left to do it. Go vote. Participate in the democratic process. You'll feel good about yourself. We're back tomorrow from 3 to 6. For Spencer, I'm Dan. This was 580 Sports Talk. Good night.